You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There, ladies, things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show for 16 years, going on 2,500 episodes, is the most amazing show that improves the quality of life. Refer to your family, friends, and relatives. Just go door knocking on Saturday mornings like the Mormons or the Seventh-day Adventists, and just ask people, have you heard about our Lord and Savior, the Chris Voss Show? No, I don't put the Savior in. That's probably going to piss some people off. Anyway, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss one on the TikTok, and Chris Voss, Facebook.com, and Chris Voss pisses off all religions.com. Anyway, that's just a joke, folks. Anyway, we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his book on leadership, my favorite topic as always. It is entitled Step Up and Lead, a guide for dynamic, innovative leadership in law enforcement, out May 6, 2025 by Sheriff Mike Chapman. And I just like to clarify, since we have an officer on the show, that it wasn't me. I didn't do it, whatever it was. So we'll get into it with him. We'll talk to him about how to provide better leadership in law enforcement. Of course, you'll learn how to, a lot of leadership things continuum over lots of different subjects. Leadership is leadership when it comes down to it. So we'll learn a lot one way or another. Sheriff Mike Chapman is a 46-year law enforcement veteran. He served 7 years with the Howard County MD Police Department in the divisions of patrol, SWAT, and criminal investigations. Once again, I didn't do it. With the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration as a special agent, he served in Miami, Florida. Well, that's a place to be in the drug enforcement industry. I saw Scarface a couple times. Yeah. He's done Karachi, Pakistan, Tampa, Florida, McLean, Texas. McLean. There you go. Yeah. McLean. There's like a weird L in it or I in it on the typo here. South Korea, Seoul, Korea, I should say, and as the DEA HQ Chief of Public Affairs. He's been all over the world, folks, doing law enforcement. So welcome to the show. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. You want me to call you Sheriff or you want me to call you Mike?
You can call me Mike. You can call me whatever you want. I get called a lot of things.
Well, I'm sure you do. I watch cops a lot, so I've seen officers called all sorts of things, but that's usually before they put them in the clink. So, all's good what comes around there. So give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs and stuff?
Well, you can get stepupandleadbook.com. That's our website that's out. My email address is michael.chapman2011@gmail.com. It's actually in the book. So if you buy the book and you want to make a comment or reach out to me, you can certainly get it on Amazon and make your comments there. So far, we've had all 5-star reviews, so it's going very well. So I'm real happy. We're actually the top seller last week, I believe, in our category. So we're doing good. We feel good about it. I think it's a good read, and I think people will like it.
Congratulations. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside the book?
Well, the book, what it is a 46-year journey with me through my career. And what it does is it kind of encapsulates some of the, with anecdotal stories. And what I try not to do is make them war stories. I try to use anecdotal stories to make points. So it's not like I'm calling out people and trying to say this person or that person. I just try to give the stories in general. So people can see kind of the things that I went through in my leadership journey, and it might impact them. So I think it's good. And I mean, it talks about, everything from breaking the comfort zone and the importance of communication to the importance of getting out there with your information, with what your vision is and how you plan to reach it, communicating with the public, communicating internally, making sure you got the right staff behind you, loyalty, capability. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at in the book, and things that might impact somebody else's journey, that they could learn from some of the things I've been through. And it's been interesting because I've been in both coming up in a paramilitary organization, whether it was the police department or the Drug Enforcement Administration, but then also as an elected sheriff, and how wide open it is, and how many attacks you get when you're in a leadership position, when you're in elected office. And I tell people it's a lot like mixed martial arts, except for at least in mixed martial arts, you've got a couple of rules. You can't eye gouge and do groin strikes, but in politics, it's like anything goes. Some of the things you can do to combat some of those attacks and kind of get past them.
You bring up a good point, because it's one thing to lead a police a division, a police department, but then if you're high enough up, or I guess however city your locale is set up, you've got to deal with politics of making sure the mayor's happy, and I suppose the city council's happy, and issues of police PR and bad crises that can happen or different things. So you're not just being a leader in just one sense of being a thing. It's kind of like, it's almost like probably like running a large company where you've got to make sure the vendors are happy and the board's happy and stockholders are happy, and you've got all these people you have to just make happy other than just your employees.
Well, that's right. And one of the things about certainly elected leadership is you actually answer to all the people that you serve. And we've got the largest sheriff's office in all of Virginia, full service sheriff's office. So it's a very complex organization. We got the jails, we got the courts, civil process, but we also have patrol, motors, investigators, crime scene people. So we have everything across the board. So we're basically a police department. I'm a police chief and a sheriff all simultaneously. But the difference is being elected is that you're answering directly to the people that you serve. So you don't have, I've got to work certainly with our board of supervisors, and that's not easy most of the time, and certainly other members of the county administration. But when it comes to the way that we operate and the decisions that we can make, it's really kind of what we want to do. And I've got a very talented executive staff, and I've got very highly committed people that work for us that are very, very professional. And so we're doing very well as far as our outreach, and we don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about, like, if I want to do a press conference or do a press release or an article for a periodical or write a book or whatever. I really don't have to get anybody's permission. I can do that. And what's good about that is it gives me the ability to take a stand on certain issues that you really couldn't do as a police chief, because you're going to have people, kind of telling you can't say this, you can't say that, or even with press conferences, it's true. And I mean, what we can do is it's like wide open. And but I think you have to use that I would say authority or that capability judiciously, so you don't overstep your bounds. Because if you do, I mean, you're answering to the public. They're gonna make you pay for it.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of like living in a big glass box, I imagine, a glass cage, if you will. I used to reckon being a CEO, being in a gilded cage. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so great, you're CEO, you get all this money," and you're just like, "Yeah, but everyone shoots arrows at me." Yeah. And I'm just kind of up here with a bullseye, and everyone's like, "Yeah, fuck that, dude." Like, well, this is a great position to be in. So I used to call it the gilded cage. But so when did you begin to write the book? What inspired you to write it, et cetera, et cetera?
So what happened was, when I ran for office back in 2011, so I announced my campaign in November of 2010. Had no idea what I was doing. I was working at Booz Allen. Unfortunately, I ran into some very smart people there, people that actually had run campaigns, and I was getting some pretty good advice. You get a lot of advice when people know you're running for office, and I would say probably 95% of it is really not very good, and everybody has an opinion. But I was actually getting some pretty good advice here, and I thought, well, I need something that I need to have a vision. I need to have something that we're striving for. Because I know my predecessor was, he didn't do a bad job. He just didn't do a good job. I mean, he wasn't out there really kicking it up, and the county was growing, and you had a lot of people that were coming in from DC, living in Ashburn, working in the federal government, working on the corridor, the 267 corridor, which is all these high-tech, businesses, Raytheon, Booz Allen, McDonnell Douglas, all these different places. So I think that it was time for for the agency really to step up. And I thought, like, well, wait a minute, let's think about how to do this. And that's where I thought, first of all, I needed to get something that would kind of catch people's attention out there. And I thought service technology and professionalism. And I talked to one of my former chiefs there in Howard County, and I said, hey, STP is like a gas additive that when I was a kid in high school, you put in your car to make it go faster, whatever the case was. And he says, Mike, the only people that are going to know what STP are you and me. Okay. He goes, none of these younger kids are going to know that. And then I thought about it. I said, well, I'm missing an obvious one, efficiency. And what that did was service technology, efficiency, and professionalism. I said, that's it. That's a goal. That's a vision. That's something that it provides a paradigm where you can always try to achieve. You'll never fully achieve any one of those goals, but you're always striving to improve in every one of those areas. And that's kind of where we went. And I was like, okay. And I remember, because I didn't have any money when I ran the campaign, I had to go out there and meet everybody. I put up, and I still do, put up all my big yard sign, all my big 4x8 signs, all these other kinds of stuff. And so I would go out there. I go to the bus stop at like 5 a.m, and I'm handing out, palm cards to the people getting on the bus. And I knew it was starting to catch when people would come up to me and go, hey, you're that step guy. You're that step guy. And I was like, okay, it's starting to resonate here, And when I got elected, and I defeated a 4-term incumbent, and I did pretty well against him, pretty handily defeated him. And I had, primary, and people in my party put people up against me because I was new kid on the block, when I lived in the county for just over a year when I announced. And so, like, who was this kid coming in? I finished my DEA career in California, so I came back, and they're like, who is this guy coming in from California? He's only lived here a year. How the nerve of him running for office and all this other stuff. So it was really hard for me. They put people up against me. And then it was hard for me to raise money, and because people didn't know me and hadn't been here very long. So I had to do a whole lot of stuff myself. But the benefit of that was it really connects you with the community. You have to be out there. You have to be meeting people, talking to people, finding out what the issues are. And so it's not a secondhand thing, and it's not just a campaign strategy. It's actually being out there and getting a real feel for the community. And one of the things, and I don't address this in the book, but one of the things that I noticed, the first time I walked a parade when I was running for office, I thought, boy, this is going to be the corniest thing ever. I just don't feel comfortable with this. But I could tell as I was walking the parade and shaking hands along the way that really this connection started to happen. And it was really pretty amazing. And I think that's the difference is being connected with your community, where they get to know you, they get to trust you. They know when you put something out that you're not just bloviating, it's not just hyperbole. You're putting stuff out that's real, that's factual, and they get to trust and depend on you. And that's kind of what the book is about. It's about being honest, being fair, being compassionate, being knowing how to change a culture, knowing how to make sure that you've got when you're talking about your leadership staff, the right amount of loyalty and competence. You can't do one without the other. Sometimes people will only want loyalists at the expense of competence. And when I first found out, I actually go into a scenario in the book where I did that, and it was very difficult for me. And so you have to get a good combination of both. So it's just a whole lot of lessons, and it's broken down into chapters and anecdotal stories, so it's easy to follow. And people that way can kind of pick it up and learn from it. And then at the end of each chapter, I have bullet points so people kind of remember the most important points of each of the chapters.
There you go. Well, I love it. It's the same way, being a CEO, especially a very large company. You have to shake a lot of hands. You have to know your community. You have to establish good culture like you talk about. And, I've watched CEOs like the head of HP and stuff. They spend their day meeting and touching hearts and minds, if you will, is what I call it, where, they're shaking hands with people, they're connecting with them, asking them how things are going. They'll walk the front line of the company. They'll walk the, board of directors. They'll walk through the middle management. They'll try and make sure that they spread themselves around. They're shaking lots of hands, touching people. I used to do touching people. I used to do that in the HR gets after me of that term. But touching hearts and minds, basically, is what it really is. You're connecting with people. You're letting know that you care about them personally and that you have an interest in them and you're empathetic towards them. And people want to feel like, somebody cares and wants to make a difference. Somebody's just not in there making a buck or trying to, I don't know, just run Johnny Law into the ground. And you'll do what I say, or a baton gets you hit in the head. So having that's kind of the same sort of aspect that major CEOs utilize. So what made you want to get in law enforcement? How did you grow up? What were some of your influences that got you in law enforcement, and et cetera, as you came up?
So my dad was a retired Washington, D.C. police detective. And so when I was very young, I would hear his stories. And I thought, man, that's a pretty interesting job. When I went through high school, started community college, I thought maybe I'll do that. And for a while there, I got involved in, I became a karate instructor. I got my black belt, and I worked for actually Taekwondo for the Junior Institute in Washington, D.C. He was big name in the Washington, D.C. area, had 8 schools around the Beltway. So I ultimately had my own school and did that for a while, but realized for me, it wasn't a good long-term plan. I was engaged, and my wife and I wanted to get married, and I didn't think that was really the right job for me to continue to go forward. So I pursued being in law enforcement a little bit more heavily at that point, which I did, and I applied to a couple different places, and Howard County was what picked me up. And I'll tell you what, it was a great place to start. I mean, I had a few years in patrol. I did a few years as a SWAT guy, so I got to learn all that, and then became a detective. So it was actually a good training ground for me. And while I was there, I'd have an opportunity to go back to school, get my undergraduate degree. And then I applied to DEA, and then I thought, wow, okay, let's do this and see what the world looks like here.
Oh.
Never, actually, quite frankly, when I applied, I never realized how many offices that they had overseas. It's like back then, I think it was I think now it's like 90 offices in 60 countries or something like that. It's really a big foreign presence there.
Wow.
But I figured, hey, let's do something. And in fact, when I got hired, I was at the class. It was right when cocaine wars were still going on down in Miami. So about half of our class went down to Miami.
Oh, wow.
So that was my first indoctrination to federal law enforcement. I think I was out there for all of about 3 weeks. And the first case that we had that was noteworthy was 350 kilos. And a guy tried, pulling a MAC-10 out, and I thought I was going to get in a shootout. I was like, wow, this is for real. This is real stuff down here,
You
So
tried that say hello to my little friend move.
Yeah, it was a heck of a place to start.
Miami and the drug trade and stuff in that era. Yeah, that's one way to get your chops down. So there you go. Did you run into Tony Montana? No, I'm just kidding. It's a fictional movie, people. I've seen Scarface too many times.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, it's a great movie. So as we go to the next stage there, what's one of your proudest moments of law enforcement?
I would say, I've had a lot of proud moments in law enforcement. I've had the opportunity to work some very difficult cases, whether it's big cocaine trafficking cases when I was in Pakistan, certainly some heroin undercover stuff that we did back in the U.S. Made some actually locked up some of a guy named Salvador Gambino from the family up there, as well as a couple of his buddies. Came down to Miami to pick up some heroin, like kilogram amounts of heroin. So it was we've had some really good cases. I've been fortunate to have received recognitions along the way. But I would say, when I look at my life and I look at, the success that I've had, and I've been fortunate that I've had such a good support network, my wife and my kids, and I've got 6 kids and very, very proud of them. I've got 2 that have bookends that are Naval Academy graduates.
Oh,
they
wow.
Graduated 20 years apart from each other. My oldest is he is now the naval attaché for NATO out there. He's a captain in Brussels. And my youngest daughter is in flight school with her husband down there in Pensacola. And I had son had graduated the Air Force Academy, one had graduated Coast Guard Academy. I had a daughter that went to the University of Florida, Navy ROTC, and I got a son right now who's in law school. And when I think about the fact that we moved so many places and the disruptions that my family went through along the way, and yet the support that I constantly got from my wife and the kids, it's been an amazing journey. Quite frankly, I don't know why she stayed with me, because we've been through so many changes in life, and never knowing, like when I was with DEA, every 3 years where we were going to go next. But it was always exciting, and so I learned a lot from there. And it's kind of funny, when I first got the job as sheriff, I remember going to one of these seminars with the leadership folks in the county. And I remember, like, everybody was getting ready to retire. I was just starting, because it's like my second career. Everybody's just getting ready to retire, and they're talking about, like, hey, what do you want to do in retirement? And they're, you go to a whiteboard and you draw boats and planes. I want to travel. I want to do this and do that. And I said, actually, I'm kind of tired of traveling. I kind of want to just settle in and be the sheriff here, and it's worked out very well. We've had a great team. We've been through our some serious challenges along the way. But right now we're highly recognized. We got the lowest crime rate in the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan area, Northern Virginia, Maryland.
Wow.
We're very, very successful. In fact, I found a stat this morning where we have so many people that want to come work for us, and I think that's reflective of a good leadership team. We have a phenomenal leadership team, and the fact is that right now the average rate of people that are leaving the job here, attrition rate for law enforcement nationally, is about over 9%. Ours is 1.66%. So I mean, we're at less than 1.7% attrition, which tells you that of the 900 people that make up the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, our attrition is so low that people like what they do. We got a great team. We're proud of the work that we do. And the one thing is, I know I've got their back, and that's the difference between what I can do and what maybe some chiefs can't do because of the political ramifications of providing too much cover to their people. But I'm capable of doing that, because I answer directly to the citizens we serve, and not to a mayor, not to a county executive. Work with them, of course, but I don't answer to them, and it makes all the difference, I think, when it comes to leading an organization like this.
There you go. Great tips on leadership. Yeah, you might want to write a book. I know I don't know if it's true or not. I've never really seen the real stats, so I don't want to spread any rumors, but I've heard it's hard for police officers to keep marriages going, and there's a lot of stress there, of course, worrying if they're going to come home every day. And so maybe you need to write a book on how to keep a marriage together with all those moving around and stuff. I mean, there might be some
maybe I'll have my wife do that. She's the one.
There you
go. So I got to say, I mean, honestly, I feel like I was always working. So, I mean, honestly, the credit when it comes to keeping the family together and going through all these things, it really all goes to her, because I spent really all my time, a lot of time working, probably too much time working, but it's still working out. So we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished.
Makes for a good retirement, though, right? You work hard, you do the thing, and you can retire and enjoy life. Write books about what your adventures were. Do you want to tease out any of the keys to successful leadership? You addressed a lot in your book: vision, leading by example, communication, proactive. Are there maybe some favorites you like?
I would say breaking the comfort zone. One of the things when I first took over, so I came in from the outside, and quite frankly, we have a headquarters and 4 satellite offices in Loudoun County. So it's not a small operation. And I really wasn't allowed into any of those buildings until I actually took office. So there's a little bit of contentiousness between the former administration and me coming in. So I came in completely cold. So what I did was I brought a couple people in from the outside. I brought a former chief operations from DEA in, a senior executive, and another one from the FBI, so that we'd have a mix of federal counterparts that could keep those liaisons going. And then I promoted some people internally. But one of the things I would say is that I hold to this day, and since the start of my administration, I hold a standard 8:30 executive staff meeting or command staff meeting. We have about 14 people that participate in this meeting. And so we go around the room. But when I started that, and I would go around the room and ask people questions, it was almost like it was challenging the status quo. And I wasn't doing that to to challenge the status quo is because I really didn't know how and why we did stuff. I mean, I'd go around the room and they'd say, hey, we're doing this or doing that. I say, well, can you explain to me why? Why do we need, why is the magic number, for example, to have on patrol on any given day 30 people out in the field? And I would say, so what happens if we go below that? Well, we immediately got to start paying people overtime. And I said, okay. I said, why is 30 the magic number? Well, I don't know. Or like, we've always done it that way. I mean, okay, that's great that we've always done it that way, but I just kind of need to know why, and so they'd be like, oh, yeah. Some people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe the sheriff's asking that. He's got a lot in there. He doesn't know what we do. And I would ask a lot of questions, and I think they were taking affront to that, but it wasn't because I was challenging. It was because I really needed to know why we did the things that we did. And then we look for ways to improve. And that's when I talk about breaking the comfort zone, which is critical. If you want to change the culture of an organization, you got to break the comfort zone. And people are really reluctant to change. One thing I say in the book there, about cops is they all want change, but they all hate change. Everybody wants change until it impacts them. Then it's like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't know it was going to impact me. But it's hard. It's hard to do that. And like one of the things I did was I made promotions equal across the board. In other words, if you went to a specialty, it used to be you'd get an increase in pay. Then you really couldn't move out of the specialty without it being a personnel action. And so now I got to justify that. So what I did was I leveled the playing field so that we could move people around, because I felt like, hey, wait a minute, it's good for people to get different experiences within the agency. I think it gives you a richer understanding of the organization, and it makes you more valuable to the citizens that you serve. And so if you're a detective, you can bring that investigative skill to the field. If you're in the field, you bring the immediacy of the work that you do and the importance of getting things done fast to investigations. Whatever the case is, there's a whole lot of overlap, and we can't lose sight of the fact of what we do is provide safety to people, and everybody is important, and everybody is as important as each other. There's no, you're more important because you got this or that. Everybody is part of they're all cogs in the wheel, and they're all extremely important because of what they do individually and the roles they play.
Yeah, it takes a village to support a community, I suppose, and raise people. And you've got racial tensions that are always a thing. You've got rights groups or specialty groups that they want to do their hearing. Sometimes you got to deal with somebody wants to march through town that no one likes, with their things. Right. There's a lot of balance there, and you're trying to provide security and safety and help the community have a good culture and stuff. And so it can be a real balancing act, I'm sure, trying to and you can't make everyone happy. That's one of the fallacies.
Well, I found that out. The thing is that you run with a party, and we're too big a county for me to run as an independent. You need to have some apparatus behind you to help you out through an election cycle. But the job itself is apolitical. It's no secret I'm a conservative, and but we treat everybody equally and fairly. And considering that, for 4 years straight, I was the favorite public servant in both local newspapers, even though the prevailing party is not the one I'm in. We've got a 7-to-9 ratio, 7 out of 9 in the opposite party on our board. And yet, me being a conservative, I continue to get recognized as one of the most popular public servants here. And it's not by accident. It's because we really care about what we do, and we care about the citizens. One of the things was kind of funny when I was first on the job, and I still got my TSSCI clearance, top secret, sensitive, compartmentalized clearance. And I remember the FBI guy that was doing a background on it. He comes in and he's like, he's filling out the form, and he says, I don't know. Well, because you're with the FBI. So the SF-86 is, whatever, 40 pages long. And so I fill out everything except for one block. And it's like who you report to. And I said, I report to the citizens. He goes, yeah, but, in the hierarchy of things, you got to report to somebody. I said, no, actually, I'm elected. I report to the citizens. And he goes, no, but I got to put something in this box. And I said, okay, look, I'm going to get all 400,000 names for you, but it's going to take me a couple of days. Okay. So I think he just had to turn it in without it. But it was conceptually, it's different. And it's even taken me a lot of time to understand over the years how different it is when you have that direct reporting to the citizens, and how you can get things done directly with the people that you serve. And there was a move to try to make us a police department. And and the board was all out to do that, and we fought back with the public. The public came in behind us 100%, and we crushed it, because we went straight to the people that we serve. And what I like is that there's no buffer. It's us and it's them. And man, I see every complaint. I see every compliment that comes in online every single morning, and we still average 4-to-1 compliments to complaints. And a lot of times, sometimes I'll pick up the phone and I'll call and say, hey, look, I saw that you called in about this or that, or you wrote in about this or that. This is why we do this. People like, is this really the sheriff? I'm like, yeah, it's the sheriff.
Word gets around, man.
They're like, whoa, so, but I think a lot of success in this field has to do with the direct interaction that you have with people, and just being there and trying to be in as many things as you can, so people get familiar with you and they get to see you and they feel comfortable with you, and they know they get to learn to trust you. They know when you make decisions, they're not rash or well thought out. And I do that because I have a great staff to bounce things off of and to kind of make sure that we get the right information to get it done right.
There you go. And that's really important. And so lots of great lessons of leadership. I mean, the one thing I love about leadership is it's the lessons you can learn, the skills that you learn in leadership, you can apply to everything. A parent is a leader. Someone in a crisis situation usually steps forth as a leader. You see that in crisis centers or situations or attacks or terrorist attacks and stuff like that. Some guy on the bus suddenly becomes a leader and helps other people, survive or helps, lead the situation, go over there, run over there, et cetera, et cetera. And so, leadership is endemic. I meet a lot of people who say, well, I can't be a leader because I'm a middle management. I'm like, no, you can. In fact, showing you're a leader early on at the front lines or in middle management is usually one of the things that gets you promoted, because people go, that guy has leadership skills. So it's great that all these are indicative across all the different cultures of leadership that can be done, or careers, I suppose. Any final thoughts as we go out that maybe we missed you want to talk about?
No, I would just encourage people, because I think there's a lot of good anecdotal stories in here. It'll show some of the challenges that I had. It'll show some of the ways to overcome them, some of the ways to lead. One of the chapters I have is lead by example, and I certainly learned that in my, when I worked in the karate world. And it's you got to lead by example. People are watching what you do, and if you're poor, you can, the old say, do as I say, not as I do. It doesn't work. Okay, you gotta be able to. When you tell people that you want to do something or whatever, you're going to do something, they need to know that you're going to follow through on it, And I think one of the things that surprised the workers from the time that I took the job, even until this day, is they're just not used to seeing a sheriff that'll come in early in the morning and stay past 6 o'clock, 6:30 at night. Wow. And that includes, that doesn't include really the weekends and the night engagements that I have and the presentation speeches I have to give and all that. So it's a matter of being highly engaged. And the other thing I would say for leadership is not to be afraid to take a stand. I mean, I think so. Everybody is so afraid of, like, well, if I say this, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get criticized on this or that. It's like, no, let people know where you stand. So long as you can justify and articulate why you're taking that stand, people appreciate that. And I think that's the one thing about what I see a lot in today's leaders is they're afraid to really go out there, and I mean, not for show, not to go to an event and, just be boisterous to get attention, but I'm talking about actually being thoughtful, writing an article, writing an op-ed, doing doing an article for a magazine, doing just a newspaper article, whatever. I mean, I've written for The Hill, I've written for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, I've written, several op-eds here and there, and a couple different magazines, Lita, National Sheriff's magazine. So there's a whole lot of things that I think are good to get things out there so people can actually, learn and respect what it is that you do. And so long as they may not agree with you, but so long as you can articulate why you do what you do, I mean, it should go a long way. And you're right, people, not everybody's going to like you. Excuse me. I've certainly found that out. Can't please everybody, but so long as you're getting to the majority of the people and they understand what you're doing, and they're understanding that in law enforcement, our job is to keep you safe. That's what we do, and we're going to do everything we can to do that.
There you go. Well, it's a wonderful message and wonderful lessons you're sharing with people so they can do better. Thank you for coming on the show, and give us your .coms one last time so people can find you on the internet.
It's stepupandleadbook.com. Excuse me. You can certainly go on Amazon and pull up the book and do that. We've got in my email, michael.chapman2011@gmail.com if you want to send me a message directly. Happy to get back to you, and I do appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, Chris.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. I know you get a highly rated show here, so I appreciate you having me on.
There you go. Appreciate having you too. I would love talking about leadership. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. Learn about leadership from all different aspects of life. We've had people on here talking about leadership. I think you can go on the Chris Voss Show and search leadership, and you can find like everybody from. You mentioned one of your kids was in the. Excuse me. One of your children was in the. Trying to find it here as I'm talking. Was in the Navy.
Right.
Navy captain. We had on the show. Oh, here it is. Right, it's gone behind the camera. We had Maverick Navy Captain Brett Crozier on the show. I don't know if you remember him, but he was a captain of I believe the Theodore Roosevelt. And it was during COVID, and he had that crisis where COVID was raging through his ship, and he couldn't get up the chain of command well. But seeing him leave his ship with a standing ovation of his officers chanting was like really amazing. And we had a great show with him talking about leadership and stoicism. And I told him, I go, I never left a room being a CEO where anybody clapped or gave me a standing ovation. So you do leadership better than I do. So good for you, man. But, we've had so much great leadership discussions on the book from all different aspects. Military trains leadership just really astounding as well. And I'm always just amazed at how great our military is because of it. It's, there's all sorts of stuff. So anyway, check that out.
My son, before that, he was on the USS Arleigh Burke. So he's got a lot of great background there. And so I'm proud. So proud of him, man. And you asked me before, one of probably the biggest award I've gotten was National Sheriff of the Year. I got that a couple of years ago. So that was a big one. When you figure there's over 3,000 sheriffs nationwide, to get to be the one person selected to get that meant a lot. So, we're doing good, and I think I think the book reflects some of the ups and downs that it's taken to get there. So I appreciate anybody who would go out and purchase that. I'd be grateful.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTok, and Facebook.com/Chris Voss. Be good to each other. Stay safe, or else I'll see you next.